So this is The Book of Incense, Enjoying the Traditional Art of Japanese Scents by Kiyoko Morita. I am an enormous fan of incenses and fragrances, and the Japanese enjoyment of incense was very well developed. They had incense parties, and I've been to some incense parties where they had you try different types of incense and appreciate them and discuss, sort of like when you go to a wine tasting and you discuss the different flavors of the wines and appreciate them. I think sometimes in our modern life we discount the power of fragrance to affect our mood and the way that we feel about things. And this helps us to remember just how important it is. This is my cat, Zuzu, helping with this process. So talking about the history of incense in Japan, and then also helping you learn how to enjoy it more in your own life. So it has illustrations from different incense parties or by different people gathering things. It talks about where different kinds of incenses come from. Sort of we tend in modern times to think about fragrances, or some people do, about being rose or lavender or violet or other kinds of floral things. But there's all sorts of different kinds of things that can make incenses. And a lot of them you might not even expect would make a really pretty flavor. So they talk about the different ways that people would burn incense or assemble incense or store incense, way that you would create incenses. And most of us aren't going to be making incense on our own, but it's a nice thing to know, if you get an incense package, where it comes from and what kind of steps went into putting it together. So it talks about incense in different types of cultures, how incense as a strongly cultural manner came to China and Japan. Talks about the varieties of incense that tend to be used in Japan. People would write all sorts of haiku and poetry about incense, and how different types of aromas had to do with different seasons and different kinds of emotions and all that kind of stuff. So it talks about the different styles of sachet incense versus powder incense versus little cone incense, and how it was often used for religious kinds of reasons. So it talks again about the way to really pay attention to the way something smells and to think about the different kinds of aspects to its aromas. It talks about the Tale of Genji, which I have over here on my shelf, which is a very famous work about the Japanese aristocracy and how courtiers all related to each other. And a lot of it deals with incense, and they would scent their kimono sleeves with incense is what they're talking about here. And this talks here about how part of it was to handle body odor issues because people didn't always take baths, so incense had its own aspect to it. And that's why a lot of people use scented sprays in modern times, because if you're out working all day long, you can't always take a shower every 5 minutes. But there were all sorts of other reasons. Lavender can make you feel more sleepy, and rose can make you feel more romantic. I'm sure that all cultures have ways of relating scents to the way that they feel about a situation. So there's only a few pictures in here, but they have practical instructions about ways to burn incense. They have the historical information about how incense has been used, and then they have practical information about how, if you want to have your own kind of incense party or play incense games, how you would do that. So I like, as far as it goes, I wish they had way more pictures and way more information about practical ways of working with incense. But I think at the time that this was created, this is my own book here, which is 92. At the time they weren't doing that level of detail in books. They just thought it was enough to say, oh, look, we have a book on incense. This is something new and unusual. Versus nowadays, when there's so much information on the web, that one would expect a book that is talking about incense to have many more pictures, many more actual details about all the different kinds of incense, and to give you much more practical information about if you want to do an incense party, take this step and then take that step and so on. But a great starting point. I enjoy this book a lot. Let me know if you have any questions.